Okay, we are going to look at 3 different methods of factoring: our difference of squares, difference of cubes, and our sum of cubes. So our difference of squares are going to be examples like this, where there's no middle term with an x. But this is a perfect square, and this is a perfect square. So our steps are going to be, first, always factor out a GCF if there is one. And then we're going to factor like this. This is what our problem looks like. We've got a squared, so this is our a squared, and we got minus sign, and we got a b squared. And we're going to factor it out like this: a plus b, a minus b. Okay, so let's look at this example. Is there a GCF? No. So I'm going to put a, which is x, minus b. Okay, so let's step back. How did I get it a? So this is a squared is x squared. To get just a, I need to take the square root of that, which is that. Remember my square root, I'm pulling out pairs, so then that just equals an x. So that's what our a is going to be. What's our b going to be then? Because if b squared is 36, then I need to take the square root of 36 to get b. Remember we said that these are perfect squares. That means if I take the square root of 36, that's going to give me one whole number of 6. So then we're going to have x plus 6, x minus 6. Oh, this paper. So if I have two numbers, I can look to see if they're perfect squares. If we've got an x squared, it's x, okay? And then I need to take the square root of that second number and then put it in our factors like this. Plus and minus, same numbers. This has to be a minus. If this is a square, this has to be a minus, otherwise this doesn't work. So let's look at this example. We got a 4 here. Well, let's see. Do we have a GCF? Is there a factor that goes into 4 that also goes into 81? Let's look. Factors of 4 are 2 and 2. And 81 factors are a bunch of 3s and 9s. So there's no common factor, there's no GCF. So we need to do something special here. Is 4 a perfect square? My root of 4 is 2. And x squared, the square root of that is just x. And is 81 a perfect square? That's 9. And since it's minus, then we have the difference of squares here. So what my factors are going to look like, it's going to be the square root of 4 is 2. So that's what goes in front of my a, which is my x squared. And square root of 81 is 9. So it's going to be 2x plus 9, 2x minus 9. Basically what I'm doing is taking the square root of this and putting it here, taking the square root of this and putting it here. If they're whole numbers that are perfect squares, then it works. Remember, for this to work, then both of these have to be perfect squares, and this has to be a minus sign, and this has to be a square. Okay? Let's look at the difference of cubes. So our steps are going to be similar. We're going to start off factoring out the GCF if there is one. And then this is going to look like this. where again we only have two terms. This time this one is a cubed. So we're going to have a cubed minus b cubed instead of our squares. Now we're going to have cubes. We're still going to have that minus sign for the difference of cubes. And what this one's going to look like factored is a minus b, a squared plus a times b plus b squared. And this is going to be our factor. Okay, so what we have to do to find our a and b, instead of taking the square root of it, we have to take the cubed root. So remember, that's where we're taking out trios. So the cubed root of x to the third is x. What's the cubed root of 1? Well, it's just 1. So what's our factor going to look like? Our a is x and our b is 1. So we're going to have x minus 1 times a squared, so x squared, plus a times b, so 1x, plus b squared, plus 1 squared, which is just 1. And this is going to be our factor. Okay, let's look at this one. First, do we have a GCF? We do. Both of these have a factor of 2 that we can pull up. So 54 divided by 2 is 27, x to the third. 250 divided by 2 is 125. Okay, this 2 is just going to hang out front and be a part of our factors. But now here we have a difference of cubes because these are perfect cube roots. And we have a minus. Okay, so let's take the cube of 27. So underneath here is 3, 3, 3. So trios because they're cubes. So part of our a is going to be 3. We know that x cubed, the cube root of that is x. So our a is going to be 3x. Our a in these instances are always going to have an x. Okay, now let's take the cubed root of 125. So remember in your calculator or on the calculator that I linked to, you press menu to 125, and this will give you all of the factors, and that's 5, 5, 5. So our trio here is 5. So B is going to be 5. So let's put it into our factors. So A is 3x minus B. Why did I put this 2 out here? That's got to come with you. Okay, let's keep going. A squared. So 3x squared plus 3x times 5 plus 5 squared. Okay, we're almost done. We just need to calculate these out. So we've got 3x minus 5. 3x squared. Remember, when you're doing this, you're applying that squared to both of those. So 3 squared is 9, and x squared is x. X squared is x squared. Plus 3x times 5 is 15x. Plus 5 squared, 25. Okay. So we have to have a minus sign here, and these have to be perfect cubes. You have to have the cube at your x has to be cubed in order for difference of cubes to work. Okay, let's look at the sum of cubes. So this time, same thing is going to be true. We're going to have a cube. These are going to be perfect cubes. Perfect cubes. And this time we're going to have an addition. So it works with subtraction and addition on our cube roots only. So let's look at what our factor is going to look like. So we're going to have a cubed plus b cubed equals, where this time it's going to be a plus b, a squared minus a times b plus b squared. Okay, of course we're going to factor out our GCF. And we're going to go through the same steps. A is going to equal the cube of x to the third, so we know that a is x. And b is going to equal the cube root of 27. And didn't we do that already up here? So the b is going to be 3. So let's put it into our factors. It's going to be x plus 3 times x squared minus 3x plus 9. Okay, let's do this one real quick. Do we have a greatest GCF? So I do know that both of my numbers are even. They are divisible by 2, so that's a common factor. But let's see if 500 divisible by 4. It is. So then our GCF is 4, and I'm going to pull that out. That's 125 x to the third plus 1. Okay, so our 4 is going to be part of our answer, and it's just going to hang out front. We're going to have the difference of cubes here. So our A is going to be the cube of 125x cubed. We already did 125, and that's 5x. And then B is going to be the cube of 1, so that's just 1. All right, let's write it all out. We got 4. A plus B, A squared, 5x squared, minus A times B plus B squared. Okay, we got 4, 5x plus 1. 5x squared. Remember that both of those are squared. So 5 squared is 25, x squared minus 5x plus 1.